So here we are. We're actually doing it.
We are, finally. It only took us 2 years.
Yeah.
But we learned a lot in 2 years.
Yeah. Learned a lot what not to do, and still trying to figure that out.
But also putting into practice like stuff that we had the head knowledge, but not the practical like application of it. And so now we have practical application of it, which is really nice.
Yeah. So
I think what,
we're actually sitting here and doing it. I think the important thing to us was, I think had a dream of doing something bigger than what we were currently doing, but also like God's been so good to us and has been gracious to us, and we felt like there was a calling also just to share it, like not to hoard it to ourselves, but to share it, whether that be just inspirational, actual practical how-tos, or just I don't know, just like
totally
giving people a hands-on experience of like how to do things when you don't know what you're doing or you don't have the resources, because there's a lot of like when you're looking online, looking through YouTube or looking or whatever, you can just be really overwhelmed by like, if you don't have these resources or you don't have this, you can't do it. But that's not true. Like the homesteading, it's the real thing about homesteading is being resourceful and figuring things out and doing it the way you can do it until you can do it right.
But even then, I don't know if there's really right, because I think homesteading is a home. It starts with a home. Everybody has a different home. And so what your priorities are for each and every homestead looks different. Like what we prioritize here may not be what another house prioritizes. And the size of your family and et cetera totally dictate what your homestead looks like. So I think the internet can get really murky because there's so many rules that seem like rules but aren't really rules. They're just made up by people to make up rules. Some things obviously are
best practice.
Yes, best practice. You don't want to have mismanagement on your farm. But having practiced what we've learned, I'm like, there's so many different ways you can homestead, and none of them are necessarily wrong unless you have mismanagement.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right, so we're doing it. This is our thing. So, hi, I'm David.
I'm Janan.
And we are Jonestead Farm.
We are.
So we just want to take you back and just tell you a little bit about our story. We eventually want to get to the point of sharing what Jonestead Farm is and what we do and what the vision for the future looks like. But we just want to tell you a little bit of history about who we are, how we got to where we're at. And so this is our first video. So we hope you like it.
More to come. It's fine. Everybody starts somewhere, right?
Yeah.
As Jude pulls all of my hair out of my head.
We've been married for 18 years, and but we've been together for 20. And we met in church. We're from Indiana originally, and the church I grew up in, we met, and
fell in love.
Yeah, she was on the worship team, and I saw her singing on the stage and fell in love with her voice. And
then he swooed me over to the tech side. Somehow that just you went to the praise team to get me, and then I was snatched up, and then we went to the tech side of life.
So we've been involved in ministry since we've been together.
Yeah.
And I grew up in church and really just felt a call to ministry at a young age. Didn't know what that looked like, but I finally found a vehicle for that in our early marriage. I decided to go to a ministry school to see if I could figure out what that calling looked like for me in my life. And I kind of got exposed to what the creative arts is in worship, what production kind of looked like. And so after school, I decided, okay, that's what I want to do. I want to pursue what creative arts or production looks like in ministry. But we were newly married, having kids, and it was tough. It was real tough.
Juggling a lot of things.
Yeah. So at one point, I think I wasn't working for a church, but I was serving almost a part-time job at a church.
Totally.
I was working full-time
Yeah.
and going to school full-time.
Correct.
And I think we had
3 children.
3 kids.
Yes.
And
working on 4.
working on 4
Yeah.
and multiple in diapers.
Yeah, 3 in diapers. That's when PTSD, but it's good stuff. It's
Yeah.
all good. All blessings.
So that was our early marriage,
Yeah.
and really just seeking that call of ministry
Yeah.
and making that our future.
Right. And since then, we have added more children, not just the 4. We have
Yeah.
9.
So we have 9 children total.
Yeah.
Our 2 oldest are boys,
Yeah.
and then we have 6 girls,
Yep.
and then our youngest is a son.
Yep.
And
Little fresh Jude.
so we're early in marriage, seeking ministry, what that looks like for us.
Yeah.
And finally getting to, for me, the vehicle for ministry was production.
Right.
And I began working in churches as doing initially graphic design, web design, video editing, and then also parallel to that in the live service of worship was running production. And I'm an audio engineer by trade, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
But really just love leading people, leading teams, developing other people, and yeah, so we're in ministry, and we feel a call to, I don't know, I guess venture out, do something new,
Yeah.
do something different.
Yeah.
And we feel a call to a church in the Kansas City area.
Mm-hmm.
And so we come out here, we fell in love, we got hired,
Yeah.
and we've been here now 9 years.
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely a walk of faith for sure to just pack up your family, especially young kids. You know, our youngest at the time, we had 6 kids when we moved out here. I've added 3 beautiful little honeys since then, but 6 kids moving across the country. Feels like across the country for us from Indiana, where all of our family and friends really were. Didn't know really anyone except the awesome people that we met at our church whenever he was, onboarding to get hired on. So it was definitely a walk of faith. And I think that was pivotal in us being able to lean in, trust God, and do some stuff that is a little uncomfortable, because staying where you're born and raised is awesome. And I loved where we were born and raised. I think we were very comfortable there. We could have easily stayed there, but the Lord just had something else for us. And so it definitely gave us a little bit of, for me anyways, gave me a lot of faith to just walk blindly in good things versus being scared and walking in fear. It was a good life lesson for me.
So we moved to Kansas City,
Mm-hmm.
and really just started developing that next stage of life for us is in ministry and developing people. We really love serving and community.
Yeah.
And we started opening up our home and letting, just throwing parties or whatever, community events to really just build relationships with people.
Yeah.
We think that, you really got to build equity in people to help develop them, and relationship is how you do that.
Totally.
And so
that's the beauty of our church too. It's one of our core values. Community is very important, and so you have to walk out what you say you believe, and that's just what we chose to do.
Yeah, we really love just the community aspect of ministry and helping relationships, just building bonds with people.
Yeah, being in a small group as well is really important.
Yeah.
I feel like that definitely gives you a safe place to talk and grow together and learn from each other, etc.
I wouldn't say that was naturally my personality. I'm
It was
very much more of an introvert, and
I'm an extrovert.
it takes quite a bit for me to really open up and
Yeah.
be vulnerable
Right.
and stuff. But when you find the right people, it's a really rewarding experience.
Totally. Yeah.
And I think it's biblical too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, but we come to 2020 and COVID hits.
Yeah. Where the whole world stops.
Yeah, and community became tough.
Yeah, especially in the area that we lived in, there was a lot of restrictions, and of course, it was such a kind of very divisive time, with a lot of people having different opinions about different things. And so for us, it created a space actually that was a blessing. He was able to really slow down in a job that doesn't ever slow down, really, because there's always something going on. You know, when the church halts and there was no services on a Sunday, that was a big deal. You know, we went to straight live streaming at our church, and that opened up a lot of space and time for him to be able to be home and work from home. And so I think we just really enjoyed the peace that came with that, the slowdown that made us really pay attention to what are we spending our time on? Like, are we being busy just to be busy? The simplicity of life was kind of a breath of fresh air, I feel like, for both of us.
Yeah, COVID came at a time for me, like, we were really, really busy in 2019. And busy isn't necessarily bad, but it's also not necessarily
great.
Great, or it's not necessarily like, sometimes busy is just like you give up the important for the busy, you know? And I felt like for me, it felt that way. Like I was giving up the important things in my life to stay on top of the busy work.
Mm-hmm.
And so when COVID came, like, while the community aspect, it was kind of tough, you know, because we were meeting online, like doing Zoom calls as meetings. I'm not even seeing your coworkers in person, just meeting online. And same thing with church. And we ended up even facilitating some like team building stuff within our production team on Zoom because like we were just really missing that community.
And so was the team. It was rough.
Yeah, and the team was. But on the flip side of that, like life slowed down. And it did for everybody, but life really slowed down. And I think we started to see maybe what, you know, Jesus talks about rest. The Bible talks about Sabbath. Like, maybe we're just too busy.
Yeah, we were definitely too busy.
Maybe we do too much. And we just really started to enjoy, like, our family time, enjoying time outside.
Right.
Having a lot of bonfires.
Yeah, we had a beautiful house in the city. I called it, like, our country house in the city. It was, you know, we had 1/3 of an acre. It was a beautiful plot of land, a beautiful house. But we were smack dab really on the outskirt areas of the metro of Kansas City. And so there was restrictions for a lot of my heart's dreams and desires of having a big garden and having chickens and having a farm and all those things. Obviously, you can't do that in the middle of the city, at least not with the regulations here in Kansas City. So, but we were like really trying to maximize the best that we had within the city, you know, enjoying the backyard and getting outside with our kids. You know, just being more intentional.
She, I think, has always dreamed of having a small farm, doing some sort of homesteading type of stuff, or at least more of a traditional, slower lifestyle.
Totally.
Some of the lost arts that that your grandparents would teach you, you know?
Right.
And I was perfectly content being close to the city, being in suburbia, having a manicured lawn, having everything put together, and
I rocked his world.
Yeah, she did. She came and she was just like, she wanted this, she wanted that, and I was trying to facilitate the best I could in the small piece of you know,
space we had.
Yeah, the small space that we had.
Yeah.
And she did a really, really good job with it. But I don't know, I think through COVID, and there's a whole lot of things that happened in COVID too. Like, we're missing community, but we're really enjoying the slowdown and the relationships of just our family growing and developing.
Yeah.
The slowdown led to, and that relationship building led to a lot of great marriage building time.
Totally.
There was a couple, 2-3 years that we just really deep dove into past hurts, past hangups, digging into even some like childhood stuff that like, why do I carry these things later in life? And then just really sought help in that. And it really has just made us way more intimate than we've ever been, way more open and vulnerable with each other. And
just honest and full of, I feel like, unity.
Yeah.
You know, thinking and loving each other well versus like doing what we know is right now we actually do it well, like
Yeah.
intentionally.
Yeah.
Oh, another thing in COVID too that we experienced as a large family, we have 9 there at the time. We probably had 7, and then we had 7 kids at the beginning of COVID and 8 by the end.
Yeah.
But we ran into an issue of like food security.
Yeah.
Like
Security was absolutely fear gripping. Like, I gripped me with fear. Gripped me with fear.
We'd go to the grocery store, like they sometimes 1 or 2 pounds was the most you could get of like ground beef, and like that's one meal for us.
And that's being very
That's
sparse.
Yeah.
We are a meat loving family. 1 pound of ground beef is not going to feed my slew of children.
So through all of that, I think my heart was just really starting to align to hers, but had no idea how we could get there.
Right.
We were sitting in a place where, it wasn't feasible for us to do. Didn't really seem possible. Didn't really feel like it lined up with what my career was and how we could do it. So we're sitting in probably 2021.
Yeah.
And we're in small group with some good friends of ours. And we start going through a study, and really the theme of this study, it was about dreaming and the future, but for us it was really about unity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's like we were both dreaming different dreams, not intentionally trying to be, divided. I don't think that was ever our heart's intention. Like, we married for life, so that was not even something that was remotely an issue. It was more like, he's in ministry, I stay home with our kids in homeschool. We do this thing really well together, but yet we do separate things as well. And so I think this actually brought us together onto like a legacy dream versus it being a David Jones dream and a Janan Jones dream.
Yes. Yeah, I would say my dream at the time was ministry, like everything ministry. And, even unfortunately at times, probably family was neglected because of it. And
I don't know if I would go that far, but
well, I mean, I would say probably so. And then, and she had a dream of, obviously raising the kids and,
Totally.
and stuff, but, she had a dream that I feel like maybe she really wasn't even living out yet.
yeah.
Parts of it were, but
Totally. Yeah. I mean, you can make do with what you have, right? Like you don't have to have this 150 acre farm with the Highland cow that everyone dreams about on it, right? So I really was trying to make do with what we had, and it wasn't just making do. We were thriving, but knowing.
But we weren't running. We were running.
Yes.
At
running
best,
2 separate lanes.
At best parallel,
Yeah.
but probably even kind of different directions.
Different directions. Yes, for sure.
Yeah. So we were going through this study, and it really just brought some perspective and just realizing that, we want more than what we have, and not necessarily materially, but like we want our family dynamics to be different.
Totally.
We have a lot of kids because we want a lot of grandkids, but we want like this like unified family unit type of feel, and where our house was like a safe haven and a place where people wanted to be, and our kids' friends could come, and hopefully when we have grandkids, like want to go to grandma and grandpa's house, know.
Right.
And so we really started thinking legacy minded, like what does the future look like for our household that's not necessarily outside of ministry, but didn't directly pertain to what my career was.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of the dreams and aspirations that we ever had together was just ministry, like just running towards ministry, which is amazing. But also, there's a lot of ministry that happens outside of those 4 walls. And so, moving in a different direction, but a similar direction is kind of what we were starting to pivot towards.
Yeah. So we're in this study, and we just start praying, and we start thinking about, man, what does the future look like for us? And God starts, I think, shifting my heart a lot.
And I was just sitting in it, praying,
and
waiting.
I thought, at best, 5-10 years is the earliest we could do something. Even then, I felt like that was kind of pushing it. It might be like a retirement type of dream.
Yeah, if you haven't picked up, he's the practical one. I'm the dreamer of the bunch. And I'm like, 5 years? Our kids are going to be old. No way, you know? And then I'm going, okay, well, listen, at least if he's talking 5 years, maybe we are getting a farm. That'll be cool. But I'm like, I really, really was praying that God would just make a way for this to happen while we had a bunch of kids still in our house, because I think the beauty of passing something down like this, skill sets and just experiences and all of that, was really important. And God totally showed up in a really cool way.
Yeah. So now we're probably sitting towards the end of 21, probably getting ready to go into 22. And like, we have developed like a 5-10 year plan. This is what we want to do.
Yeah.
We're really digging into it, but virtually, like through YouTube.
Right.
And in our backyard.
Yeah.
And
started a lot of tomato seeds.
Yeah.
Whew, we had a lot of tomatoes growing in a very shady backyard.
But so much was happening, like that post-COVID, those first couple of years post-COVID, like, one, like, our economics changed.
Totally.
Big time.
Yeah,
Like,
huge.
Like, groceries in our house almost doubled.
Yeah, for sure. If not more.
Probably more than that. We added more people, too.
We did, yeah. We have a tendency of doing that.
And our kids get bigger, and so they get hungrier.
They do. They get hungrier.
So our grocery bill, like, doubled.
Plus, I'm a lifelong learner, and so like learning to cook from scratch was a really big deal to me, and changing quality of ingredients that we've been cooking and feeding our family. So that within itself became a lot more of our grocery budget as well. And then our kids have become foodies in the process of that, because now we
got rid of the Pop-Tarts.
We
started
did.
cooking breakfast.
That's right. Yeah.
So
yeah.
But then also, you know, like, politically, things were just changing.
Yeah, everything was shifting.
And I think the future was unsure.
For sure, yeah. Especially for a big family. Going to the grocery store and having limits on your food, I don't ever really like walking in fear. But that was definitely one of those moments that shook me to my core when I was like, I'm sorry, I can't buy more than 2 pounds of ground beef. That was a lot. That was a lot for my heart. So feeling that political shift mixed with just uncertainty of what does the future hold? What kind of sustainability we really have? So
I think really I think God started just working on my heart, showing that, you know, I don't have to wait 5 or 10 years, that we could actually do something. And I remember one day I was in the shower and just kind of praying about the stream. Don't know how it's going to happen. And, you know, the one good thing, I guess, about COVID was that, like, the housing market went crazy.
It did. We had instant equity.
We bought the house in 2018, and now we're sitting early 22, like 4 years later, and
we're sitting with a decent amount of money.
We're
in
sitting
equity.
with equity that we didn't think we would see in like 10 years. And so I was just praying about it and thinking about all of those things. And she was still in bed, and I got out of the shower and I said, "Hey, what if we sell the house?"
And my 2-month postpartum self went, huh? And then I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to sell the house. We're going to get a farm. Yeah, we can do that. That's fine. Let's do that. That sounds great. And here we are. We did the thing.
So we sold the house in early summer of 22.
Yep.
And we did move into a rental for almost a year. And we're shopping.
Whew.
Things are going off the market like crazy.
Anything in land.
Everything's going over asking price.
For sure. Anything with land was gone, obviously, like before you could sneeze. Multiple offers, well over asking price. Honestly, just not financially even responsible, in my opinion, to do that. Like, why would I spend $30,000 over appraisal value? That seems insane.
Multiple offers that declined.
And of course, the price point that we were looking at is pretty much where everyone was looking at. And so it was kind of hard to beat the market out. So it was really exciting, but really discouraging in the beginning for me, because it's like I see this beautiful thing, and like I said, I can dream a little dream, and then it would get snatched away a little bit. And so I kind of had this space of my brain was kind of like, I didn't want to just settle, but I knew that we were going to have to settle or something like that. And I was growing a little fearful. Like, are we going to find a farm? Like, are we really going to find a farm? Maybe we're going to have to settle for something that I don't love. And we ended up out here on the property that we actually own now. There was multiple people here walking around. I think there was probably 10 different couples walking around whenever we were out here. It had just went on the market, like the day it went on the market. And we are walking around and I'm like, oh my goodness, like I could see some stuff. The house is significantly smaller than what we were ever used to, but the outdoor space was absolutely breathtaking to me. It was a blank slate. It was not necessarily what you would assume someone would want, but I always love a diamond in a rough, and that's what I felt like this farm was. I was really excited to be able to transform it into something really, really beautiful and turn it into something legacy for our family. Of course, we put in offers, multiple people put in offers, they went with a different offer. And so I'm like, okay, well, this one wasn't it.
Yeah. So the house that we're sitting at right now, they didn't accept our offer. They went with someone else. And so there was this other area that's a really great county nearby, but it's far from everything. It's like an hour drive to a lot of the things that we do.
Yeah. And our kids being teenagers and things like that, like I just didn't want them to have to sacrifice doing some things. We all have to sacrifice some things, but I really didn't want our son to not be able to play football and our girls to not be able to cheer. And that almost made it impossible.
But there was a house there that we were looking at.
Yeah, there was.
And we kind of same thing. Multiple people there. We were looking at together, having an offer on the table. And our realtor calls to tell us that our offer hadn't been accepted, but that the house that we're at, like that first buyer fell through.
They did, yeah.
And instead of putting it back on the market, and they probably could have got a whole lot more than what we ended up getting it for if they would have put it on the market.
Yeah, we originally were looking at it in like the early spring, April-ish, March time, and we're now in May and late May, and that's when they ended up calling us and said,
Yeah, they called, the first buyer fell through, and they said if our first offer still stands, that they would take it.
Yeah. And we were like, what?
Like, we thought this house was done.
We did.
We hadn't even been out here to look at it again.
Right. And honestly, we were kind of confused too by the call. I'm like, no one calls and offers land. Like, what? Especially at the price point that we were looking at. Like, that's unheard of. And so, of course, we both kind of review in our minds, like, all the yes points of this property and all the no points of this property. And we definitely decided that it was worth the yes. So we chose the yes.
Yeah.
Now we have a Jonestead Farm.
Yeah, and that's kind of the story, the backstory of Jonestead Farm, who we are, and how we got to where we're at.
Yeah.
And there's a whole lot more that we want to share with you coming up. I think we're going to be a homestead and try to show you some things, like how we do things. Like, there's so much value, I think, in seeing how other people do stuff, because there's not a right way. There's a lot of ways that works for you and works for the resources you have, or works for the size of your family, or whatever. And so we just want to show you that from our perspective. But more importantly, I think we want to kind of share that through the lens of, like, legacy living.
Yeah.
Building something for your family.
Being super intentional.
Being intentional, not just with your homestead, but in your marriage.
Yeah, with
as moms and dads.
Yeah.
Right. It was one of those things where I think initially we said, oh, we're going to do YouTube as soon as we get the farm. And then analysis paralysis set in. And then also just wanting to put in some practical application into what we've learned, because we had YouTubed everything, and like tried to soak up as much knowledge without actually putting our hands on butchering a chicken, or even raising eggs, from our chickens, etc. So like, I think having this couple years where maybe we didn't jump into YouTube was really good for us, because now we actually have some practical application that we can add to our head knowledge, which was really helpful. And so I'm really excited to like take people along the ride with us, because I feel like it's going to be really fun. We are definitely legacy-minded people, and so if anything, it helps one person, we did what God called us to do, because at this point, I think we both feel like if we don't jump into it, God's been so gracious to us. Our story, the reason why we're sitting here even telling the story, is because the Lord has been in it the entire time. And so I think we just don't want to walk in disobedience. we both feel so heavily that we're supposed to help people, love people well, and build a community even within our actual community and online, to be able to help people. And so with that, I think we're going to be able to do some really cool stuff all together. It's going to be super fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time.
Yep. See you soon. And wait. Ready for it? And two. Okay, bye.